Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Liam, the Prove It Guy, author of Limitation Is A Mirage. In this podcast, I will be sharing with you actionable tips, routines, and insights that I have gathered over 20 years of extensive study with masters, experts, and world-class performers. My hope with this podcast is to save you time, money, and frustration, helping you fast-track your way to mastery. Hey guys, welcome to this bonus episode of the Limitation Is A Mirage podcast. Today I have Matt Richards on with me. Matt Richards is a social media marketer, amongst many other things. He works with mindset, branding, anything that you would need to create a successful business online. We met a few years back through social media after me stalking his posts for a while. We worked together on creating some of the things that I was doing a few years back, and he basically taught me, the biggest takeaway for me was that marketing is not a bad word. Marketing is something that I don't understand. In fact, I just don't have a clue about. So in this podcast, we talk about how we met, how we interacted, and what he did for me, how he got to where he is, because again, our stories are kind of similar. We started from no qualifications, we got into martial arts, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to spoiler alert it. So I hope you really enjoy this. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me or Matt. Thanks again, and I will speak to you guys soon. Thanks for joining us on this bonus episode of the Limitation Is A Mirage podcast. I am here with Matt Richards, who is a social marketing marketer and a social media marketer. Would that be correct? That's sort of...
Yeah, that'll do. Like social media marketing and sales, that type of stuff. So, building business on Facebook and social media type thing.
That's kind of why I ask people to explain themselves, because I suppose that sort of leads us directly into how we connected. We connected through, I don't know how I stumbled across one of your videos, and then I decided that I just liked the natural way that you spoke. You didn't do the whole like regimented way that most people were trying to do this sort of thing. And at that stage, I believed that marketing was like a bad word, like it was a dirty word. I didn't enjoy doing anything to do with marketing. In my head, marketing was Herbalife because of the fitness background. That's just the first thing I thought of. So my biggest takeaway from working with you was that you changed all that for me. Like when I contacted you and said, look, I need to improve my business. I have clients, but I want to have more clients, but I hate marketing. Like you were like, yeah, that's because you don't know what marketing is.
Do you find that?
Do you find that's a normal thing that people come to you with, that they don't know what marketing is and they have a bad idea of it?
Yeah, I think the issue that people get is they get confused between marketing and selling, and you see that a lot online, especially with people that just post about products and services and all that type of stuff. And I think the thing is with marketing marketing and branding yourself, we'll broaden it a little bit to like branding yourself, building a following, just because whoever's listening in, it'll probably resonate more with them. People, because we've grown up, like me definitely in my house, like if anybody ever knocked the door, like trying to sell you something, it was a case of, I don't know if we can swear on this podcast or not, but my dad would just say a word and then shut the door, piss off basically and shut the door. And if I walked down the street, I'd say, I'd be walking with different types of people and they'd be like, oh, salesperson. And it was a case of avoiding them. Or if you saw one with a clipboard, you'd avoid them. And I think because everybody's kind of grew up with that mentality of like, if somebody's trying to sell you something, run a mile, they're going to either scam you, they're going to sell you loads of windows you don't need or something like that. And I think it becomes natural where people become like really awkward when it comes to marketing themselves and getting themselves out there. Also, the trouble that you've got as well with social media is people judge you instantly, which a lot of people don't like. I don't like it, but it's just the way it is. I just learned to deal with it now. But initially, when you first do like your first bit of marketing and it doesn't quite work out, for a lot of people that destroys their confidence. So if you package all this stuff together, plus a few other different reasons, most people feel quite dirty when it comes to marketing, or they feel like they're irritating people, or they feel like they're bugging people, or doing too much, or that type of stuff. So people tend to become very tentative with their approach. But the problem is with that, the more tentative you are and the more laid back and the more sort of you don't put yourself out there, the bigger the chances you just get crushed by the marketplace, because there's some people out there that are just like relentless with content, relentless with their branding, relentless with getting out there. And it's a case of you're in or out. It's like jumping at the deep end. You're either going to swim or you're not going to make it. And that's pretty much the case with marketing. And I think that intimidates a lot of people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I know whenever I first contacted you,
to me, marketing was a small area, but just like you said there, we opened it up to branding and everything. Like I remember you asking me, what are you doing for your marketing at the minute? And I was like, well, nothing. I know I'm good at what I do and people should just buy that. And you were like, well, how are they going to find you? Like, I don't know. Like in my head, I was like, sure, I'm doing social media. And that was another reason why I connected to you. You understood where I was coming from, first of all, because you've been there. And then whenever you talked about the branding, like if you had just said branding to me and didn't explain that, again, I would have just hung up the phone. But because you were able to explain what branding was and what I was doing, and it was all these wee light bulbs. So I've talked to loads of people in different areas, and maybe I'll get like 1 or 2 light bulbs in that first conversation. But it was like you were just flicking switches. And I was like, shit, I didn't know any of this stuff at all. And I used to think it's just going to annoy people if I keep talking to them about what I do. But you explained it again to me that if you're repeatedly talking to the right people, it's not going to annoy them. It's like the way I think of it now is like if I was a vegan and I just kept telling everyone I met that I was a vegan, it's going to annoy certain people and it's going to interest other people. Or if I was doing CrossFit, I'm just using those 2 examples because they're the 2 that come up the most when you meet people. So whenever it comes to branding, do you find people are like where I was, where we just don't understand that branding was a thing?
Yeah, I think the thing is, I think people don't realize just how much work's involved with building a following on social media. See, the traditional way of building a business would be, like, for example, if we was going to open a martial arts academy, a traditional way that you would do that would be you would open a dojo or a gym or something, you'd stick it there and you'd contact the local area. But don't forget, the traffic's already there. So once you've plonked this dojo in the middle of a place, let's say, I don't know, Scarborough, you've plonked this dojo in the middle of Scarborough, there's already people walking past that every single day. There's already traffic, there's already noise, there's already people around there looking for a place like that. So you've already got that established potential customer base. Now, when it comes to social media, you don't have that. What you've got is a lot of traffic, but it's like, imagine yourself standing on the side of a motorway. Everybody's passing by at like 70 to 100 miles an hour, and you're trying to stop them like, woo, and they're just flying past because they've got their own sort of thing going on. That's what social media is like. Just look at how quick people scroll through their news feed and stuff like that. Attention span of a human is like less than 5 seconds when it comes to social media. That's scientifically proven. Now, the thing is you're trying to get attention in a space like that. You don't have the traffic coming past your doors the same way as you would a traditional business. So the way in which you make noise is by delivering content, is by putting yourself out there, is by creating some level of a brand, because what happens is eventually that motorway is going fast, 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 fast. You're going to start turning heads. And when you start turning heads, you begin to change the momentum. And I think that's what a lot of people don't get. It's not as simple as I'm very good at something anymore, because social media has changed that. Social media qualifications, like it's, when it comes to social media, like you can have all the qualifications in the world and be the most decorated person ever, but if you don't get online and you don't deliver your content, nobody gives a shit. And it's as simple as that. You get people who are extremely talented being outgunned by people who are half as talented just because they're more relentless with their marketing and their branding, and they're getting themselves out there a lot more. When it comes to social media, the biggest killer of your business isn't qualifications and how good you are. The biggest killer of your business is scarcity. People have no idea who you are. People have no idea what you offer. People don't trust you yet. So in order to be able to build that, it takes a lot of consistency. And I think a lot of people don't get that. They think, I've got a great product. As long as I whack it online, it's going to get me sales. Great products aren't the key to sales. This is why companies spend 10 times more on their branding than their manufacturing. You get like a can of Coca-Cola, takes them pennies to make it, but how do they sell it for 3, 4, 5, 10 times more is because of the branding behind it, the marketing. People know what it is. It's everywhere. You got like freaking David Beckham on a Pepsi ad or whatever. Like, you've got this type of stuff which turns people's heads. And I think that's what people don't quite understand, is there's a lot more work than just having a great product, because people aren't going to trust the product if it's in crap packaging.
Yeah, that Coca-Cola or Pepsi idea, I use it as an example now, because over here you will see David Beckham doing an ad with a Pepsi or a Coke, and the exact same ad's done over in China, but it's Jackie Chan. So it's a good ad. His is more like high flying and stuff. But like you said, they're creating the content for their market. And again, that was one of the reasons I connected to you. You don't just post social media, your your stuff. It's not just I'm a marketer, this is what I do, or you're doing your challenges, or you do your Success Academy. That's, you go fishing. Like, I have no interest in fishing, but every time you go fishing, I'm like, I must check out to see how that went. Or just the fact that it's like, I love nature, so that you're out and about in nature, and then you put a lot of family stuff. So even before we connected, I felt I kind of knew a bit more about you before I went into. So it's like you're creating like and trust with your audience. And I never felt like you were, even when we talked the first phone call, I never felt like you were hard selling me. And that's what threw me as well, because again, I believe marketing was about, right, buy my stuff, and this is what you need it for. Just, would you just buy it?
Yeah. Tickets. Whereas you just talked to me about,
even if I had got off the phone call, I would have already improved what I was doing. So whenever it comes to social media, do you think it's important to have a strategy, or do you think people could just throw everything out there? Or what's your take on that?
I think you've got to have some level of strategy, and you've got to have a bit of natural stuff involved as well. I think the reason why I showed me like fishing and out and about is just to show different sides to you. You know, at the end of the day, if you're always the same on social media, you're only ever going to resonate with a particular person in that particular mindset. So if I just post about sales all day, the only people I'm going to resonate with are the people that are interested in sales today, which is cool because it's my market. But we have to remember that we're dealing with human beings, the same as you with your mindset, your weight loss stuff. Some people who do mindset and weight loss stuff are going to be interested in fishing. Some people are going to be interested in some other stuff. People have hobbies. People have interests too. And what you're basically doing is showing people a different side to you, because, you know, you've got to, I think that's important when it comes to social media, because like I said before, you know, the whole idea of being a particular person, you don't have to be the best at whatever it is that you do. You just have to be the one that's willing to put your voice online, the one that's willing to deliver the content. And over a period of time, you'll naturally build that trust and rapport. So I think it is important to have a strategy. You know, what I would say is focus entirely around content and value and bringing that to your audience. Forget the selling. The selling will come easy once you have the audience. Even if your marketing's absolutely, you know, even if your offer is completely crap, if you send it out to 2 million people, you'll still make sales, you know? So that's the thing. Like, if you can build the following initially, you will make sales in the back end. So it's good to have a content strategy. It's good to think about serving your audience every single day, because what you got to think is, on social media, most people are looking for something. And if they're looking for something and you're not turning it up and delivering it, they're going to go and find it somewhere else. And then if they're in somebody like myself, I'm going to have you on my email list. I'm going to have you on my podcast. I'm going to have you in my group. I'm going to be coming at you from all angles. They're not even going to come back to you because I'm not going to give them a chance. You know, and I always use my marketing as a spider web analogy. I always say to people, it's like building a spider web. If you look at a spider, the way they build their web, first and foremost, they need a place where traffic is. You know, a spider's going to go hungry if there's no flies coming through this place. So what they do is they usually use trees or branches or whatever, and then they'll look at the best place to build this web, and then they'll take it strand by strand. Now, each strand is like your posts, your statuses, your content, and stuff like that. And they construct this web, and then they construct this place where they're going to eat, which in our case is selling. So if we can construct this web in a particular place, let's say Facebook. Now with Facebook, you've got like your marketing, you've got your Facebook groups, you've got your messages, you've got your contacting, you've got your Facebook lives, maybe ads, whatever. You've got all this stuff. That is basically what your web is. And the way I like to think about it is, once I've got somebody stuck in my web, I want to keep them there. So I'm coming at them from all different angles. Like, I've got this email going out, I've got this podcast, I've got this. Now, this might sound impossible to a new person who's just starting out. You don't do all of this overnight. Don't come on this podcast and you're like, right, I need a podcast, I need this, I need this, I need this. Build and take your time, but eventually that's the end goal. You want to be everywhere. It's omnipresence, you know, something that people are everywhere all the time. And if that's the case, you build brand awareness, you become a consistent image in people's minds, and people become more aware of you subconsciously, not just consciously. And it just makes selling a lot easier because people already trust you. Like you said yourself, like, you kind of trusted me before we jumped on the phone. And then it kind of makes everything else very simple. You know, selling is very simple if you know what you're doing. And if you're trying to force it, it becomes very difficult. You know, it's like chasing something. You chase something, what they're going to do? They're going to run away. So, you know, kind of like the same concept when it comes to selling and marketing. You've got to have that mentality of taking your time, building your structure correct. Because if you build it correct, you build it the right way. If you look at the spider's web, everything is flawless. Everything's symmetrical. Everything's where it's supposed to be. The structure's solid. It can go through, like, you can have like insane winds where you think, fuck, I need to get out of this and get in the house. and then you go outside, the spider web's still there. You know, I think it's scientifically, I'm going completely off track, but I think scientifically, I think it's the strongest material that you can find in the world or something like that in comparison to iron and stuff like that. Because iron breaks and stuff breaks under extreme pressure. Spider webs don't. You can drive 100 mile an hour down a motorway and the spider web's still on your sort of, you know, your mirror, which is insane, right? You imagine the speed that's coming through. And that's what I'm saying to you is build strong, build methodically, take your time, but most importantly, just make sure everything's got a place and just act with a purpose. Don't just act for the sake of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love the idea of being omnipresent because, like, I know I've done that as well, and it's taken a long time to build up. Like, even it's only been this year where I started putting the podcasts onto YouTube, but they were like, I did a daily podcast that just was audio, and there'd be some people that would come to me and say, "I love your podcast," and I would be like, I've never seen you like or comment or post anything on any of my groups. And they're like, no, I don't do any. No, I don't like that. And now there's people that are saying, God, I didn't know you had a podcast. I'm like, I did it for a year every single day. What do you mean? And they're like, oh, I just watched mine on YouTube. So because it was just out of their wee circle. So the fact that we have the same sort of idea of coming from different angles. You're hitting people an email who, like, some people just won't read an email, but they'll listen to a podcast or they'll watch a podcast or they'll be on a live group or Facebook or whatever it is. Or like me, I saw your picture of one of your fights just with your hand raised. And I was like, right, now I'm feeling more connected to this guy. We've both been competitive. We both do martial arts. I'm in now. This is it. I want to jump on. Whereas I'd seen all your other stuff as well. And I had an idea that you knew what you were doing and you seemed like you were a dead-on guy and we'd get on, but it wasn't just to that wee click where I was like, fuck, I want to know what's going on here, because I'm going to ask you about your backstory actually, because it's similar to mine, whereas like I left school with no qualifications, all that sort of stuff. Do you want to give a wee brief background? Because again, a lot of people think whenever you're as successful as you are, that you must come from like a real easy upbringing and you must have loads of qualifications and money behind you and everything, but that's not the case, really, is it?
No, I mean, to be honest, when people say I had a bad upbringing, it's usually like you think like abuse and all this type of stuff. I had a great upbringing. Like my parents was great. They didn't have a lot of money. I mean, my dad worked extremely hard. Like when I say extremely hard, he's still to this day the hardest working person I know, and I've met people all over the world. He has a ridiculous work ethic. Like you can go. He works in a building trade, and he's the type of guy at like 50 years of age. You can put a shovel in his hand, and every single kid within a 2-mile radius will die before he does. like it's insane. He'll just dig a garden nonstop like 8 hours. So when we was young, he'd work in the foundry, and he'd work in the foundry from 5 till like say 4 o'clock at night or something like that. Then he'd come home, have a quick shower, and he used to work a nightclub at the evening. So he'd be back out at like 7, 8 o'clock, opening up this club, and he'd stay there till like 2. Then he'd come home. He used to sleep on the settee because he used to say if he went to bed, he'd go in too much of a deep sleep and he won't be able to wake up. And then he'd wake up again at like 4, 5, back in the foundry for 5. Raw time foundries, which are like, they're not even allowed anymore because they were so insane. Like he used to talk about people like melting their legs off and all sorts, like this hot coal and like magma and all this stuff that they melted. And I like, honestly, like hardest working person I know. So I didn't come from like any huge levels of investment. I was terrible at school. I didn't get kicked out, but I have no idea how not. I've always seemed to get away with it. But honestly, I was in so much trouble. So I had no real massive qualifications. Left school, started working with my dad. Worked with my dad for years. Hated it. Working with family sucks. We used to argue worse than 2 enemies. And then I sort of found myself in martial arts. I started martial arts. I'm the type of person, if I take something on board, I've got like this really bad addictive personality. Like it's the same with martial arts, fishing, gaming, whatever. And, I sort of got into martial arts initially just because I was bullied at school and I felt like a bit of a wuss. So I was like, I need to go to martial arts just so I don't get picked on when I'm older type thing. So I got into martial arts, and before I knew it, within 6 months, I was main event at the fight, which was typical me, right? I was like main event against the guy who's fought like 8 times. I'm like, yeah, let's go for it. Within 6 months, I had a 5-round fight in front of like 1,500 people. I did really well. Like I got to like the last round, and then this guy just sparked me out. Literally, I went for like a brain scan and all this type of stuff. That kind of learned me that I need to take things a little bit more seriously. So over the next year or so, really nailed down on my martial arts. Spent a lot of time, practicing 5 to 6 hours a day, training every single day without fail. I was working my job at the same time, so I'd literally get up in the morning at 5 in the gym for like 5:30. I'd train till like 7:30, go to work, finish work at 4, back in the gym for 6 till 10, then go to bed. You know, my partner hated me at that point, but literally that's what I did. And from that point, I went on to win like 5 gold medals in jiu-jitsu. I was undefeated as a cage fighter for like 3 years or something like that. Right up to the point then I was ready for things like title fights and all this crazy stuff that was going on. And for one reason or another, this was a weird point in my life. I mean, my partner lost their first child, and I don't blame that for what I did. But I don't know, I can never pinpoint exactly why this happened. But actually I can. I was hanging around with a bad crowd. And eventually, if you hang around with the wrong crowd for a long period of time, you begin to make bad decisions. And I was always the type of like, because I had the martial arts mentality, you'll know this yourself. When you've got your martial arts, you can focus on anything to an extreme level. Like, you have to. You know, it's like the difference between you getting knocked out or not is your level of focus. Because if you don't see the kick coming, you can't avoid it. And it's like the same mentality. So what happened was I was so fixated on my martial arts. Suddenly, all of a sudden, I just had this slip, and I started trying drugs. I was like, you know what? All my friends are doing it. I'm going to try it anyway. And then that was it. You know, I found myself on this crazy downhill path. I went from somebody that was very, very successful in my martial arts, not like global or not like, you know, on TV or anything yet, but in my local area, it was like, this guy's fucking undefeated. It's going to be the next big thing. It's going to be like exciting, you know. My last 2 fights I won within less than a minute, and one fight of the night for both of them, one of them submission of the night. So it was like, fuck, this guy's making a lot of noise. And then I went from that to a cocaine addict. You know, I went from taking extreme amounts of drugs. I would go missing for like 4 or 5 days on end. I'd be at the craziest parties, drinking till I was wild. I didn't even know where I was. And I was doing all this stuff, and I still had my wife and kid at home. And I was still sort of like, well, my now wife, she's my girlfriend back then. I have no idea why she's still here, but she is, and I'm grateful of that. But like,
you're still handsome.
I don't know if it's that either, but it's something, right? I could go spag ball, maybe it's that. But anyway, like I've been on this like crazy drug journey, and I found myself, you know, on a complete downhill path. I never got back into training after that. Never got back into any of it. I pulled out my last fight, which was the fight before my title fight. I pulled out of that because of all the drugs and stuff I was taking. I couldn't even turn up to training or nothing. And I suffered with things like mental health issues and severe mental health issues, to the point where I wanted to commit suicide and stuff like that, and tried a couple of times. So I went like the complete 180, and then eventually found the online industry. Started out as a network marketer, which introduced me into personal development. Personal development kind of brought me back here today in a short version, because I don't want to sort of talk about that too much. But, you know, the whole thing of creating a brand online, I hid the fact that I was a drug addict for 3 to 4 years of my business journey, because I always thought to myself, if you talk about stuff like that, nobody's going to respect you. Nobody's going to value you. It's embarrassing. And I hid it for years. Also, none of my family knew I was a drug addict. Nobody knew. Even my partner, she just thought I liked partying. She had no idea the extent of this problem, you know, and I kept it all to myself. I think that's what made it worse for me as well, because I had nobody to really talk to. I was on my own for this for like 2 years. And to go from like a martial artist to that, I was confused more than anybody. I was like, what the fuck's happened to my life? What have I done? Like, I just couldn't work it all out, and just felt empty and lost and all this type of stuff. And that was it then. Within 3 years of my journey, I started to be open up more about this. I told my story online, which was quite emotional, because as I say, I've hidden it for a while. And then it was wild, because more people seemed to respect me. I thought the opposite. Like, they'd look at me and think, "Oh, he's a drug addict. Fuck him. I'm not working with him." Well, ex-drug addict. I haven't took drugs for years now. Obviously. But the thing is, like, it had the adverse effect. It actually became something people was interested in. Like, no way, you did this, you did that. And since then, speaking on stages and all that crazy stuff, it always seems to come back to the people who suffer with mental health. They're the ones that stop me at the end of stages, or stop me online and say, you know what, I struggle with that too. I understand where you're coming from. And all this type of stuff. It's very rarely the accolades, you know, like the success, the fact that the podcast has gone worldwide and all this stuff. It's always like the journey, and it's always the story that people come and speak about the most. And that's pretty much my journey in a nutshell. So I've kind of done both spectrums. I like to think I've done both spectrums of life. The extreme lows, definitely not as low as some people. I haven't had it worse. And then I've had like euphoria, and you know, and you know, things have been great. So it's kind of, I've seen both sides.
It's It's an amazing journey to hear. So I've known bits and pieces of it, and then there's some wee bits in there that I didn't know anything about. Again, I followed you, and we've been friends for a long time now. So I get the same thing when I get off stage, and people will go, "But you had no qualifications. How did you write a book? How did you create all this stuff? How did you create courses? Why are people hiring you to do stuff?" And I think like back to the spiderweb idea, because you actually give everything of your life. Like some of the posts I really enjoy of yours are when you post old Facebook memories where you be like, "Look at the shit I was talking about here."
And it's you just moaning about some fucking crap, like working in the dog
Government,
food factory.
religions, everything.
just whatever it is, and then
the next post is you've done all your work and you're out fishing, and you're like, you've went from one extreme to the other. You've developed the freedom, which I think personally, it's why I became an entrepreneur. It's to support your family and create freedom, so that like you go fishing, but I just go outside. Actually, the other day I was thinking about you because I was standing at the side of a river, and there was loads of wee tiny fish, and I was like, I could just lift.
Fishing's easy. I could just lift that thing. That'd be. But
the fact that we can just go and do that, I think that's one of the things that people overlook that you're going to gain when you do this sort of thing. And then just to hear your story, the fact that you were able to like overcome everything. Again, a lot of people, like I believe, are full of shit on social media that they talk about all the amazing things and how they can do X, Y, and Z, and they can help you achieve this. And that doesn't resonate with people because they're not telling the story of, well, I came from here. Like the reason you can take people from anywhere in their life to being successful is because you've climbed that mountain yourself. You didn't just get handed it and go, "Oh, I have an idea about this." Like you climbed the mountain, you put the work in. I love the story about your dad as well. Now it makes more sense why. Like my dad was the same. He worked flat out, then he gardened and worked flat, and he's 76 or something, and he's still gardening away. So that's probably why we have that same sort of work ethic where when everybody else is going, I'll do a couple hours or I'll go away. We're like
deep dive straight into what's going on.
Do you find that whenever your clients come to you, that's something they realize that initially you have to work? It is hard work. I think people overlook the hard work. So
yeah, it is.
Is that something that you find people struggle with? The fact that they're going to need to like buckle down at this before they get to the freedom stage?
I think that the thing that people suffer with most, and they either know about this or they don't, most of the time they don't, is human beings tend to need the instant reward. They tend to need gratification straight away. We see a lot of this online now where people are, I don't think there's anything wrong with this, some people do, where people will give something to charity and they're recording themselves whilst doing it. There's two ways to look at it. Some people like, you're recording it just to make yourself look good. I think to myself, at the end of the day, he's giving somebody to charity, he's recording it, so what? Maybe some other people put their hand in their pocket as well. That's the way I look at it. But anyway, point being is why is that guy doing it? Is because he needs people to see him doing it. He needs people to say, look, I am a good guy. And you see this in all different ways and shit, you know, sort of all different forms and the different people's lives, is people need that instant gratification. They need that sort of pat on the back. They need that result. And again, coming from most people coming to entrepreneurship or business building, whatever you want to call it, they come from a job where you go to work for 1 hour, you get paid for 1 hour. You go to work for 30 hours, you get paid for 30 hours. The trouble is when you come to build a business, you go to work for 30 hours and you get paid fuck all. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, hold on a minute, this isn't quite working out. And I did that for like a few years. Like I would work extreme levels of hours in my business and I would think to myself, I could have earned more doing those hours in a job. But it's not until now you realize that hard work kind of pays off. You know, I can do an hour's work and earn more than I did in like a month at work. And that's not because I'm amazing. It's just that I stuck at it for long enough. And I think that's what people don't always recognize is there's going to be a lot of periods of time and a lot of points in your journey where you're doing work and nobody's patting you on the back. You're doing live videos, nobody's watching them. You're recording podcasts and nobody's downloading them. You're putting your statuses on and nobody's liking and commenting them. You're putting your offers out there and nobody's taking them. That is when you shine or not. You know, it's easy to be good when things are going well. You see the same thing in fights and stuff. People like Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Joshua's a good example. I'm not a biggest fan of him. Like, I don't particularly, I won't say I dislike him, but I'm not his biggest fan, okay? But like for somebody like that, where has Joshua learned more? Did he learn more completely destroying everybody and winning the title? Or did he learn more about himself when Andy Ruiz like completely fucking destroyed him and then he has to come back? You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's where most people learn most stuff about themselves, is when it's not going to plan. And I think that's what some people have to learn to embrace, because anybody can be good when things are good. It's when things are bad and nobody's watching you. Nobody's motivating you. Nobody's spurring you on. Nobody's in your corner saying, come on, let's do this. When you got to wake up and you got to do your work today, nobody's going to watch the videos you're recording anyway. That is the hardest part. You know, we keep going when you're not getting the recognition. You see it in fitness and health. What do people do when they go to the gym? They go to the gym for a week, they take their top off, they go in the mirror and they're like this, like fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger in Mr. Universe, right?
Yeah.
First thing, trying to look for the biceps, where's the abs? Now, people do two different types of things. People either look at that and go, well, I've been going to the gym for a week, I feel great, I'm not quite where I want to be, but I'm going to keep going. And then you got person number two is like, I've been going to the gym a week, still haven't got a six-pack, what's the point? I'm ordering a pizza, you know? And I think that's the trouble, is people want that sort of, I've done 20 press-ups, so I should have muscles. I've done dieting for a week, so I should have lost weight. I think a lot of people have that sort of like, they think they're entitled to stuff. Here in the UK is the worst for it because of things like benefits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Hey, you don't need a job. Fuck it, sit on your ass. We'll pay you anyway. That type of stuff. It creates a lot of laziness. It creates a lot of need for gratification. It creates a lot of entitlement. And listen, the trouble is with the online industry, they don't give a shit about who you are. They don't care about your qualifications. They don't care about your background. If you don't put the work in, you're not getting paid. And for some people, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, it's, again, just like you said, people expect things, and you get it in the gym, but you get it in everything. Like, and I know I was doing it. Luckily, I'm quite strong-minded, but I was putting out offers. I remember when I did my ebook, and I did a 5-day challenge, and 30 people were on it, and they were like, I love the challenge, brilliant. And I was like, cool, I just released an ebook. It's going to be $5.99, but for you, 30 people, I'm just going to charge you 99p. Take it with you, just as a thank you. And no fucking person bought it.
Yeah, it's
and I was like,
destroying.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
I was like, these people have like sent me a message saying this 5 days changed my life. And I'm like, you wouldn't even give me 99p. Like,
yeah,
that is, like in my head,
it was crazy. And I could have just give up there, but instead, that was I think that was just before contacting you, where I was like, there's something wrong here. I know I'm good at what I do. I know my content's good. I know the book is definitely good. Like, what is it that's not? It's me getting people to buy this stuff. It's not. And then that dirty word came in my head where it was like, well, it's your marketing, but I don't like marketing. So
yeah,
I need to find a kung fu marketer. That's basically what I have to do. Just as we're talking about putting the content up and people not listening, I think it's a good time to talk about haters. I have a thing where, like, I honestly don't care what anybody thinks of me. I don't give a fuck. Like, I do what I do.
I live my life how I live it, and if you don't like it,
I don't care. And I've had some brutal online comments where, like, friends will text me going, what are you going to do about that comment? And I'm like, I don't
care.
So what?
So have you any advice for, because I know you work with a lot of people that are selling and are trying to build a brand and trying to put themselves out there. So they're going to come up against, like, there's assholes everywhere. You're just going to come up against. Have you any advice for that?
It's just going to happen. Like some people seem to think they can avoid it, or they try and be over nice, or they try and, sort of sit on the fence, or they don't have an opinion because they're afraid of being judged. Listen, you're going to be judged anyway. You walk down the town every single day to go and pick up a loaf of bread or whatever you do. Every single person that makes eye contact with you is judging you instantly. They're either looking at you and thinking, I mean, listen, let's just be honest here. Everybody says don't judge a book by its cover. Everybody says don't judge people straight away. Everybody says don't do it, give everybody a chance. But we all do it. It is human nature. It's bred into us. It's like, it goes back to the caveman days. You need to know the difference between friend and something that's going to eat you alive. So you need to make a very quick judgment whether this saber-toothed tiger is going to be your best friend and let you ride around on his back, or rip you to shreds, and if you get it wrong, you're fucked, So this is like the thing here. This is bred into us. It's naturally bred into us to resonate with people, dislike people. I walk down the town, and I admit this. Listen, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer, I'm a mindset guy, whatever. I'm supposed to have all this figured out. But I walk down the street and I'm like, don't like it. Don't know why. Don't know what it is about him, but I don't want to be his friend. And then I'll see somebody else and I'll think, wow, that's a pretty cool guy. And I haven't even spoke to them, haven't even said a word. And we all do this. So let's just get honest about this for a second. If we get honest about it, we can just understand things better. The trouble is with some people, they have a tough time dealing with that. Or they're in denial. They're like, I don't judge anybody. I'm like, fucking pull the other leg. Of course you do. Everybody judges everybody. It's human nature. It's impossible not to judge people instantly. So like the thing is understand that is just bred into us. It's our genetics, our genes. Now the thing is, people seem to think you need to be popular to be successful. You don't need to do that. You don't need to win popularity contests. Donald Trump, perfect example, one of the most successful people on planet Earth. Like at one point, it seemed like he was the most hated human being on planet Earth. He was pissing off the Mexicans. He was annoying women. He was annoying this. He was annoying that. He was annoying black people. He was annoying this. So honestly, this guy was like the most hated person on planet Earth, and then went on to win the biggest popularity contest on planet Earth and become a president. So isn't it kind of funny how it's like it's extremely unpopular, but still won president? How does this work? If everybody hates him, who the hell's voting for this guy? That's what it seemed like. But Donald Trump understands. And listen, I'm not saying I agree with him. I'm not saying I like him. I don't want to go on this podcast is like, I hate this Mac guy. He says he loves Donald Trump. Listen, I'm not going to share my opinion. I respect him as a businessman, but I respect him to the extreme levels as a marketer. He's one of the best marketers on planet Earth. People say he's stupid. Why is he saying that? He's not stupid. You don't become a billionaire by being stupid. He's saying it because look at all the millions of people all complaining about him, moaning about what he said. This guy doesn't care. Bad press is good press, because let's go back to this social media thing. What is it that kills you on social media? Is it being judged and saying good things or negative things, or is it because nobody's talking about you at all? Yeah. That is what's killing your business. And this guy understands it to an absolute T. He's not sick. People are like, why did you say that he's stupid? You don't become a billionaire by being stupid. He's advised by some of the best people on planet Earth. This guy isn't stupid. He knows exactly what he's doing, because bad press is good press. So if you look at it this way, the way I look at it, if somebody comes onto my status and delivers a hateful comment or something negative or something horrible, I'm like, cheers, dude. You know, you've just told me to quit my business, but you've actually grown my business by making more people aware of me. And I had this to the extreme level when a few years back, I changed my direction in business. I'm not going to go into too much detail with this, but I changed my direction in business, and it created a lot of people that was upset, because what had happened was I'd built a brand and built a following, and then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? But it wasn't all of a sudden. Kind of fell out with love with what I was doing. And I'm like, I'm going to progress into becoming a coach. I'm going to progress into becoming a trainer. It upset a bunch of people. And what happened was the people that was following me in this particular company started to make me like this fucking terrible person, basically. They put up the wanted posters. They were slagging me off in groups of like 10,000 people. Initially, I was like, damn, I'm screwed. How am I going to build a business? These people are slagging me off to 10,000 people. Like, what can I do? Like my business, my coaching business is destroyed before I've even started. And at the time, I was listening to a guy called Grant Cardone, and he talks a lot about, listen, all you need is people talking about you. Good or bad, all you need is people talking about you. Off the back of all that hate, they was trying to destroy me. Off the back of all that hate, I made 10 times as much money in those first 2 months of launching my business than I did in the company. Because what had happened was, you'd get the small amount of people that was like, fuck, we hate Maps, he's terrible, he's changed his business. And then you had the other people who had no idea who I was like, why do they all hate this Mac guy so much? And they go tootling off onto my profile, which is absolutely packed full of content and branding, where they're like, this guy isn't so bad. And they start following me. So the thing is, whether you get good people or bad people, you're going to be judged anyway. So just get judged for what you do. I mean, one thing that people can never say to me is, you haven't been yourself. You know, if me and you used to go down the pub or whatever, you know, we're going to do this at some point, even though we live completely age. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Like, I'm way out of shape. I'm getting my ass kicked. But the thing is, like, if you went to meet me in a pub, I probably have a slightly different accent. My black country accent would come out more the more drunk I got. But, like, I would still be the same person. And I think that's what's important. As long as you're the same person, be judged for who you are. People are going to hate you anyway. Like, listen, whether you're nice, look at the most successful and the most, if you think of the most inspirational and people that have done the most, like Mother Teresa or whatever, like of all time. You go into Google, somebody somewhere is like, she's a bitch, she's a scam, she's this, she's that. Like they're the most influential people of all time. What chances have we got of not getting any haters? Like we have zero chance. So don't worry too much about the approval. Again, goes back to that thing we spoke about earlier. You don't need approval. You don't need gratification. You don't need somebody to say, well done, you're amazing. Just stick your flag in the ground. You believe in this. This is my content. This is my value. This is what I can do to help people. Some people appreciate it. Some people don't. But guess what? As long as you're delivering your value and your content, you're paying your service to earth. And Muhammad Ali says it. It's fantastic. You know, what you do for others is the the rent you pay to live on earth. Or he used to say, obviously passed away. So like the thing is here is like it's that to me just makes me want to do what I do even more. I put my video out there. I don't care if you absolutely hate me. Okay, cool. Somebody out there loves me, and that's all I care about.
Yeah, I think it's important that you added both, because people, if you get tied up in the love as well, and then if that doesn't appear, it's back to the pat in the back thing. If that love, I put out a video and nobody liked it, why did they not like it? Like, yeah, that can also hold you back just as much. So combining both of them, I like the way that you did that. I'm going to just round it up a wee bit now, because I'm aiming for about 45 minutes, because I want to get you back at some point, because we could just talk for hours with the amount of different things that we did. So I just wanted to give my audience a bit of an intro to you, and then we'll do that. There's one question I have been asking everyone that's come on, just because I like asking this question, and it's, if you had a superpower or were a superhero, what would it be?
I'd love to be able to fly. I'd love to be able to just have a look at the world and look at us all. Like, you know, you open up like an ant's nest and you see them all like scurrying around with their little jobs. I like to like fly above and have that ability for us, as everybody's like losing their mind and going crazy about stuff that's not really important. Yeah. I'd love to have that power to just fly past and see what's going on and be free, you know. So that'd be me, definitely flying. Yeah.
Again, I love the answers to this question, because it sort of fits with everything you talked about. Like you said, they're being free, seeing what people are doing whenever they're scurrying around. That's basically what you do. When I come to you, you're basically looking at me from a height going, what are you doing?
Because I remember you looked at my Facebook and then you were like,
right, I see all the things you're doing. This is why that's not working. And for me, the metaphor of you being above me, looking down at me, scurrying, trying to sort all that out without having a fucking clue what I was doing. So you kind of already have that superpower when you think about it. So before we finish up, where is the best place to find you? Where will people connect to you, or where would you like me to direct people to?
So probably the best place to connect with me is on social media. So if you've got me on Facebook, you've got Matt Richards, just reach out and connect with me. I'm a human being. I don't bite. So just send me a message and reach out and say, hi, I listen to you on the podcast, whatever. And I always get back to everybody on a personal level. So on Facebook, also you can check out me on Instagram. I've just created a brand new profile at Matt Richards Coach on there as well. Those are the best two places. And if you want to find like my groups and stuff like that, you can head over to themattrichards.com, which is a website with just a few little pointers and stuff on there directing you to like my groups and stuff like that. And the Complete Marketer Academy, which is a free Facebook group, which is packed full of training and stuff like that, which leads on to my pod. There's everywhere. like main thing is connect me on Facebook or search the Complete Marketer Academy or the Complete Marketer Podcast. Search them in like your various different browsers, and you'll find me there.
I'll add links to everything anyway, but just for people that are just listening, but you can find them through me anyway. Like we're connected and all of that as well. So Matt, thank you very much for coming on. I really loved it, and I look forward to having you again.
Mate, absolute pleasure. And I appreciate you taking time out, and appreciate you having me as a guest. And hopefully this podcast is valuable to your audience and people that are connecting in.
Yeah, I know it will. So thanks for everyone tuning in, and we'll speak to you on the next podcast.